Hi everyone. Hey,
Mhm.
it's Bill Free and Gangaji here, and just want to say we're happy to share with you today just some conversation and some thoughts, some inspiration about the conference that's coming up. It's called Many Paths, One Self
Mm.
conference, and each of these conferences are named as inspired, and this is inspired because we truly live in an experience and a time of many paths and
Mm.
no path and oneself. And it's my honor to be friends and collaborate with Gangaji
Mm.
and her awesome team out there in Ashland. And we were fortunate enough to film Gangaji in the film that's coming out, Awakening Mind Films, and it's called Know Thyself. Is chapter one of this series that we're doing, and she was one of the first yeses, and we got to go out and film her. And I was just talking in the green room, what a wonderful film it is. She's going to screen it for the first time next week. And I'm happy that she is also part of this conference that's coming up. Just we're about 10 days out. It's April 21st to the 23rd. And if you haven't registered, there will be a registration button for you in Facebook. You can click on that. It's totally free and it's live. And Gangaji is one of our presenters for that. And the title of her session is Trusting Yourself, Trusting Life. And I'm going to stop talking now and say, Gangaji,
Mhm.
thank you for being here and giving us the benefit of hearing from you before the conference. And just like to hear more about what we might hear or listen to
Mhm.
or even take part in at the conference with you.
Thank you, Bill. And I'm really happy to be here, happy to be a part of anything you and your team do. It's always such quality. And I just thank you for inviting me. Well, when I looked at or remembered the title, Trusting Yourself, Trusting Life, there was a moment when I went, oh, that can be really misinterpreted. So I would love to be able to just say what I mean by trusting yourself and then trusting life. I'm not speaking of trusting your thoughts or even trusting your emotions or even trusting your intuition necessarily. I'm not talking about trusting the image you have of yourself or the image you may have of your life or what you've written out you want your life to be or how you want to change yourself. I'm not opposed to any of that, but really what I'm speaking about is discovering who you are and trusting that. My teacher, Papa G, said, each of us has a role to play in this Leela, in this play of consciousness. But in order to discover that role, we have to be absolutely still. We have to be silent. We have to we have to realize who we are, who I am, and who I am as life. So really trusting yourself and trusting life are the same pointers toward discovering this presence that is alive, that is who you are, and that is at play in this form of yourself and in the situations that your particular form has around have around you. So it I often say something and then have to explain what I've said because as you know, words are very limiting and we have lots of concepts about what different words mean. And one of my goals is to deconstruct the concepts we have so that we can directly realize the truth that we are.
Yeah, that's I really resonate with that because um, most of us in the beginning, until we've had a glimpse or we've had a teacher that was pointing to that direct experience, most of us think of trusting yourself as trusting this, this body mind experience. How do we get past how do we get past uh, misappropriating who the self is that we're trusting?
Well, the immediate and lasting way is to tell the truth about what is trustworthy. I mean, certainly at a certain age, we recognize that our ideas about what should happen or even what is happening are not trustworthy. They're not reliable. They're subject to change. So finally, what's trustworthy is not subject to change. It's what's here, always here, regardless of good experience or bad experience. And it cannot finally be objectified. So it's not an object in our minds for us to work with and shape and play with. Our self-image is an object, and our ideas about ourselves are objects, but the subject of those objects is unchanging. And that's what I mean by yourself and by what's trustworthy.
Yeah, yeah. It's interesting, Gangaji, that what's really weird
Mm,
is that after we find the passage or the portal or
mm,
the understanding that allows us to trust ourselves, we actually go back and we just live. We're just we're who we were with a different understanding, right?
yes, I would say what's always been in the background, this kind of presence of awareness, becomes foreground. There's a shift, but it's not that really anything is lost or anything is gained. There is this realization that includes everything, includes what changes and what's untrustworthy, and is in that inclusion absolutely trustworthy and oneself. Yeah, I'm a regular person. People are sometimes surprised or shocked at how regular I am, and I have emotions, I have opinions, I have good days and bad days, just like the weather. And that's the way my teacher was too. He was profound in his presence and his transmission, but he lived a life. As he would say, the yogurt seller only knew him as a patron of yogurt. He didn't, he didn't try to be anything different. And he really told me to just be myself and trust that. And so that's been my invitation and that's been my vigilance.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. And it's great to hear that expressed from someone that is considered to be a sage of our time and a person that's considered that has been obviously has been awake for a long period of time and shares this understanding with a large audience. And then to hear you say, well, I'm just normal. I'm just me. uh, and this character that we call Gangaji is the new transmission. It's actually the transmission of consciousness and truth coming through
Mm,
for everyone.
that's right. Or at least for everyone who's interested or has some desire to know the truth. It's some great good luck or grace that the desire to be free, the desire to wake up, the desire to know, however it may be phrased internally or externally, something arises that is a pull and a beacon home. And that's what led us together, you and I, and all of these people who are part of this now. And of course, all your projects, that's been the guiding light.
Yeah. And I'm thankful for it too, because as you know, it's driving. It's I don't have to be so concerned about which direction we're going. I just have to be a little bit willing to let go of the steering wheel myself.
Yeah, yeah, to be used in this particular way that you are made for. And if we know that ahead of hand, and this is where how people often misunderstand when I say trust yourself. I'm not saying trust what you know, trust that you have the capacity to discover what is and who you are and what your life is about, what your life is serving, finally. To trust that. And then there is a ride, as you talking about the car and not steering it. You actually get to enjoy the amazing experience of being in your particular form in your time, the amazingly good and the amazingly bad situations of our global time and our country's time, our individual's time. There is then this enrichment. People often think of spiritual inquiry or spiritual endeavors as a kind of sobriety, and there is a sobriety that's present, but it's enriched so that it doesn't need a stimulation for that enrichment. It's the very truth of being. And you have a right to this. We all have a right to this. It's here.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's a similar uh, offering that you give even in the documentary that's coming out that that talks about this desire as being an important ingredient, and and then it sort of leads the way, would you say?
Yes, because in my own case, I can say that there was this desire, and then I interpreted that desire in all kinds of ways that were actually dead ends. Sometimes it took years or decades to get to the dead end. And so I knew that I had this fire or this quest, this internal quest, but I couldn't figure out how to satisfy that. And so luckily, when I met my teacher, he said, stop doing anything to satisfy that. Just give yourself to that. And so that disengaged my thought process from thinking that I knew what I needed to do to get this or to surrender to this fire of truth that was calling me home. And in that, there was silence and opening. And that's a surrender of the individual mind stream to consciousness itself, which then makes perfect use of individual life streams. But it's as you said, you're not steering the car. You're like, you're right there in the seat of the steerer, but the steering is coming from some divine mystery.
Yeah. Well, the desire came from me to want to have this above all else, and I feel that was the commitment that was needed for liftoff.
Mm. Well,
And
that's, yeah,
yeah,
above all
and then
else.
part above all else. Yeah,
Yes.
that's almost an instruction to the mind that says, okay, Bill, you can step aside now.
Mm.
In fact, you're ordered to step aside. Above all else means, okay, take your orders, take the
Yeah, be quiet.
be quiet, right? Be still. That's what Papa G sort of said to you. Stop
Yeah,
and be
stop,
quiet.
be quiet. And when I tried to do that, he said, no, no, that's too much. You're doing being quiet. Just naturally open your fist,
Mm,
and here you are.
yeah. Well, it's my hope that we would have invitations for people in the different traditions. This conference is unusual. It's unique to our conferences because this conference has a Sufi sheikh.
Mm,
Sheikh, his wife has a course in miracles, a course in love, non-duality, Advaita, Christian mystics. It's got the whole deck of cards almost. And it is my hope that if you're watching, you're most likely in the Course in Miracles community on this Facebook page, Chris Cade's page. And blessings to you, Chris. Thank you for letting us share on this platform. And if you're a Course in Miracles, this conference is still for you. You'll have lots of little samplings of different traditions, and maybe something will be said
mm,
that will give you that big wow or that
mm,
draw that doesn't go back to sleep. That's my
mm,
hope.
mm,
Yeah.
That's what we support, right?
Yeah. And Gangaji, thank you for being a part of this conference and other things that we do, because we're all in this together.
Mm,
And Pure Presence Conferences is very fortunate and grateful that you would be part of our conferences and this message of hope and opportunity and what's available to everyone.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Mm.
All right. Bye, everyone. We'll see you at the conference. Click on the link, go to that page and register for free. And you can see Gangaji. You can be with her for 90 minutes and you can ask questions. She'll be right there for you to answer your questions. And thank you for joining us today.
Mm.